Hi, Annette Lang here. Welcome to my podcast, The History of Personal Training, or at least my experience in it. This podcast will be a combination of my stories. Full disclosure, I might not remember things exactly the way that you did. Now, my stories of 30 plus years in the fitness industry and then specifically personal training. I was at the beginning of a lot of events, the firsts, so to speak, and so I hope you enjoy those stories. In addition, I'll be interviewing lots of different people whom I've met through the years, and I think that will help piece together a wonderful timeline of the development of this profession that we now call personal training. Enjoy. Okay, so today I'm going to interview Paul Frediani. So the year is 1994. I am a brand new trainer at Equinox Fitness Clubs. It is one location. It is on Amsterdam and 76th Street on the Upper West Side in Manhattan. And it was a really interesting sort of eclectic group of personal trainers, certainly not all youngsters. There was some older folks, relatively speaking, right? And some people who had different careers or different sort of aspirations or inspirations in getting to where we were then. You know, back in the day, it was popular for people who were actors to also work as personal trainers because, you know, you stay in shape and it's a pretty flexible kind of schedule. So we used to joke around because first it was in New York where if you said you were an actor, somebody would ask you, oh, really? Which bar do you bartend at? Because obviously you're not making a living as an actor. And so then it was sort of commonplace to say, hey, I'm an actor, but I'm also a personal trainer. So anyway, I was working hard, you know, doing my floor shifts and trying to pick up clients. We called it, you know, getting your book filled so you get off the floor and you didn't have to do the floor shifts anymore. And Paul Frediani was one of the first guys he was very welcoming and just very nice, you know, really good looking guy, really nice guy. And so I thought it would be interesting to hear his story. This is Paul Frediani. Enjoy. Am I recording now? Yes. So, Paul Frediani, thank you so much for being here with me. I think back to my first days at Equinox, and like it was 93, I think 94. And you were just one of the first people who were very welcoming to me, very nice, and you had been there for a while, I think. But I just wanted to hear, you know, how'd you get your start in fitness, and I'll interrupt whenever I want.
Okay, 93, and you look exactly the same. You haven't changed.
All right.
How did I start? You know, to give you a snapshot, how I not like you, who you studied in college and you wanted to go into health in the fitness industry, or
Right.
you had that background. I wasn't like that. I started off as an amateur fighter in San Francisco, and when I won the Golden Gloves there in 1973. I was offered a gig as a fashion model, so I started modeling. I had a career for about 5 years fashion modeling. Then I turned that over and I started acting. Then I found myself in New York as a broke actor, and I was punching a heavy bag on the Upper West Side for exercise, where I was exercising there. And some fella came up to me and said, "Hey, his name was Mickey DeSena. I still remember him. He's a sports writer. He goes, kid, would you teach me how to hit the heavy bag?" And I said, never taught anybody anything like this. I mean, I know how to do it. I don't know how to teach it. And he said, well, I'll pay you. And I said, okay, I could figure it out. So me and him were playing around, hitting the heavy bag for a month. And then he said, my good friend is opening a gym on the Upper West Side, and they're looking for a boxing instructor to teach one-on-one boxing. He said, you'd be perfect for this. And I kind of hesitated. I didn't know anything about the fitness industry or teaching. He goes, well, you really got to go meet him. And he kept bothering me. So I went to meet Danny Errico.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that was him.
So Danny gave me a pass, being Paisan. And then he sent me over to Rocco Greco, and I met him. And then I met Bob Esquari, who started the whole personal business as we know it today. And they hired me, and then they gave me reins, man. They said, just go with it. And they gave me a whole studio there, and I started the whole one-on-one boxing program. Then after, I was working there, I heard about these things called certifications. So it's like, oh, okay. So I started learning, the knee bones connected to the, thigh bone, all that stuff. I took my initial ACE exam, and then other, certifications, and then I created something, continuing education class called Box Athletics.
That was a great program, Paul.
It really was, and I hit it at the right time. And I traveled around the United States and teaching trainers how to incorporate one-on-one boxing in a personal training session. And I kept that going for quite some time.
But Paul, Paul, how did you get national recognition for that? Like, how did you get to travel with that? Was it through conferences or?
No. I was working with I got a publisher in a roundabout way, and the people that at the publishing house were calling gyms in San Francisco or LA, and I would go to the West Coast and I would just go into a crunch. It was preset. They made the appointments for me.
Oh, wow.
And train. The publishing part of my life, and that was my educational portion of my life. And what happened with training is I was teaching a young kid boxing for free, Matt Bloom, and he's a bartender around the corner, and I'd teach him for free, and he'd give me free drinks. Great deal. And he kept saying to me, this is a New York story. He kept saying, I'm a writer, and I'm gonna go to Mexico, and I'm gonna write my first book. And I'm going like, sure, kid, give me another margarita. And anyway, one day I went to the bar, and he wasn't there anymore. And they said, oh yeah, Matt, he's in Mexico. He's writing his book. So I didn't see him for 3 months, and then I'm walking on the Upper West Side, and I bump into him. And he goes, hey, I published my new book, and hey, my publisher is doing something called, he wants to do a boot camp in East Hampton. And I think you'd be perfect for this. So I said, okay. So I met his publisher, and his publisher said, we're doing this. We want to do a Saturday and Sunday boot camp, and he wanted to team me up with a fellow called Stu Smith, who was a Navy SEAL. So we went out there and we ran it for about 3 years. It was a great experience. I think you came out there, didn't you?
Yes, at the very beginning, yeah.
And then after the first summer there, he said, we're going to write a book on this boot camp training. It's going to be called Boot Camp Workout, and I want you to write a chapter in it on the boxing portion. So I did that, and they liked it. And then he said, if you have any ideas for any books, let me know, and we'll move forward with it. And that started a long series of books from, Golf Flex, which was the bestseller on Amazon, to Surf Flex. I got to train the U.S. surf team, to Power Sculpt, to Sex Flex, to Golf Flex. So anyway, I wrote a bunch of these books, one after another. And all these things enhanced my personal training career because it gave me some panache. Right. I'm a continuing education provider. I'm a publisher of books. Really didn't necessarily make me a better trainer at all, but it gave me that kind of panache to, get clients. And anyway, everything went well. I was still working with Equinox till I got to a point, like so many people, that, it was time to move on.
Right.
I don't know if it was like I was pushed and shoved me out the door or invited to leave. I'm not quite sure. My memory serves me well. But I ended up leaving, and that was a good thing. And I was working down at an independent facility called Elysium Fitness on 72nd Street.
Now, what year are you talking about, you think?
That must have been, let's see, it must have been about 10 years ago.
Okay. So 05. 05. Okay.
05 or 04. I moved away from Equinox and was doing my independent stuff. And actually more than that, I think it was 2000. I was working at Equinox, at Elysium as an independent trainer. And then I was called in to the JCC.
Right.
And they made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. They brought me in there as a master trainer. It was fantastic. It was a great place to work, great people.
So the JCC is the Jewish Community Center, huge place on the Upper West Side.
Huge, a great community. If any trainers out there are lucky enough to work at the JCC, they're very lucky. They're a great bunch of people there. And I worked there for, I think, 5 years, and then I had an opportunity to be a business partner at Elysium about 3 years ago. And so...
so just explain what Elysium is.
Elysium Fitness is a small, private, independent personal training studio on the Upper West Side of New York. And it's designed for independent personal trainers. We have a physical therapist there. We have massage therapists. We have nutritionists. But it's really designed for people. Most of our trainers there have had at least 10 years experience, and they're they've been in the industry for a long time.
And then, Paul, am I right in thinking the way you do it is like if you want to work out there, you buy a membership right? And then you go and pay for the personal training and.
Yeah, the trainer, the training fee itself costs $30 to work out there. But the client has to become a member.
Gotcha.
It's a small nominal fee of $40 a month. So.
And then they can go whenever they want and do cardio and stuff, or.
They can membership where they can do cardio anytime they want, but independent clients cannot be on the floor at any time. You always have to be with your trainer.
Got it.
We don't have the space there. We only allow 10 client trainers there at one time.
Gotcha. And Paul, when Elysium started, were there a lot of those kind of places? Because I know it was like cyclical, right? Like back in the day, there were the little, aerobic studios, and then the private personal training studios. That was still new, right?
There was only 2 on the Upper West Side. There was Patrick Malone, who was also a former, and he's right across the street. And he had a smaller place with a really machine-based training. And then Tony, who built this beautiful, it looks more like a cigar bar than a gym, but it's great. It's great for our clientele. It's very upscale. And that's basically the only 2. There's one on the east side that I remember going to a few times. But, now they're starting to pop up a lot all over the place. It's difficult because of the rent. It's very difficult to have those spaces in Manhattan.
Now, do you guys do small group too, or like small classes?
There's one small class there that Jason White, who's a personal trainer, and he has a class there every Friday night called Paddle Hard.
Wait, who does?
Jason White.
Jason, okay,
And he has this class called Paddle Hard. It's a really good class. A lot of mobility work, a lot of work for the people that are in paddle sports, whether it's surfing or stand-up paddling or kayaking.
Wow.
That's the only class we have.
We're
really desperately looking to expand our space.
Right.
We're above or below us, and hopefully in the future something will open up for us.
Right. Wow, that's great. So, okay, I want to leave you with 2 questions. I'm trying to ask everybody, what do you think is important for a new personal trainer to know, or any personal trainer to know, about the history of our profession? And what do you think is important for the average person walking on the street to know about the personal training profession? If that's not too much.
I'll probably ask you a second question later. But I think the most important thing for young trainers to know, and because there's so much hype on personal training, if you go on the internet and you look at it, and everyone's talking about making $1 gazillion as personal trainers and making these exorbitant amounts of money, and it's just not that simple. It takes years and years to have a craft that is worthy of that. And although there might be some trainers there that make a lot of money and they're maybe not quite as worthy perhaps in their talent, what they are worthy of is their service base. And I don't think I'm not sure that you could teach anyone service, and I'm not sure you can teach an individual work ethic.
Right.
We have a lot of talented personal trainers now, and since the business is booming, I don't doubt at all that in the future you're going to need a 4-year degree to be a personal trainer at the minimum. But that doesn't necessarily translate into a good personal trainer. It's so much complex than that. You know that we've known some really brilliant people. They should be in a clinic. They shouldn't be personal trainers. They don't understand the personal service industry. And at the end of the day, we're in the service industry.
Right.
We serve clients the best we can. So I would just, make sure that you have before you jump in full blown and buying all these certification, make sure that you have a real passion for the industry, because it's not as easy as I think a lot of individuals make it seem. I go on the internet and I'm thinking like, wow, this would be really great to do this, but it's a difficult business.
Right. Well, I think you sort of answered the other part of it too. That's what I think all people don't realize. I just try to tell people how freaking hard it is. Sometimes I say, think about 6 different people, some you like, some you're not really that crazy about, but you have to spend 1 hour of uninterrupted time with this person. and it's just totally about them. And I catch myself all the time, even after so many years, thinking like, I just screwed up that opportunity, the way I talk to somebody, or like my body language, Yeah.
I learned a valuable lesson. I took a certification on what was it, life coaching. And I'm not a life coach at all, but I took the cert. And one of the best things I learned about that was listening. So I take the test to be a life coach, just to get the certification. And so we have to role play with this expert coach. And so he pretends he's someone. He says, I got this little knee thing and I got this thing. And I all of a sudden just jump in on, well, I can stretch out your hamstring and I can strengthen out your quad. And he stops me right there. He goes, Paul, I know you're a really smart guy. You have all this stuff, you've got all this education. He goes, but that's not what the coaching's about. Coaching's about listening to your client. It's like, listen to them first and then kind of repeat back to them what they said.
Right.
And telling them how you're going to save them,
So, Paul, was that like to pass the program? You just screwed up again?
Yeah. And he didn't pass me. I had to take the test again. It was like, but it was a humbling experience. You learn more from failure than doing things that easy. When you fail and you learn and you come back, you do it again, it kind of like, it really connected with me, because even now when I talk to people, even when I assess people, I just listen to them and I repeat it back to them. Is this what you mean? Sometimes, yeah, that's what I mean. Sometimes, no, that's not what I said.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The mirroring.
So many. One of the things with trainers is we think we're heroes. Right. We're going to save you. Someone comes in 75 years old. He's got a bad back. He's got bad shoulders, bad knees. And the young trainer goes, don't worry about it. I get you. You'll be doing a marathon in a month. Yeah, no, I don't think so. What they say in medicine, don't cause any harm.
Yeah, do no harm, right.
Do no harm first, and maybe mitigate his loss, because the fact of the matter is we're going to get old and we're all going to get there. So try to slow it down. Don't try to save once. Don't try to be a savior,
Right. That's very well said. All right. Well, I think I'm going to let you go, and maybe we'll catch up again another time.
That was fun. Thanks, Annette.
Thank you very much. Bye.